All right, so you guys wanted a deep dive on this case out of Paris,
Yeah.
and wow, it's really a tragic story.
It is.
An 18-year-old American tourist suspected of throwing her newborn baby.
Out of a hotel window.
Yeah, out of a hotel window.
So she...
The infant did not survive.
Awful.
We've got reports from various sources, The Independent, People Magazine, NBC News, CBS News, and they each kind of add a little piece to this puzzle.
Right.
So, it's not just about knowing what happened, but kind of exploring like the why.
Yeah.
What could push someone to this point?
Well, and that's the question that sort of haunts you, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's just the details as they are emerging, it just makes it even more complex.
Yeah, so it's early morning, February 24th, in the 20th arrondissement of Paris.
Okay.
Not exactly, the heart of the tourist scene.
Right.
And neighbors near the Ibis Styles hotel are awakened by screams.
Oh.
And then the discovery, a newborn baby on the ground outside.
What struck me was the report that the baby was found with the umbilical cord still attached.
Yeah.
Like, it just speaks to the rawness of the situation, the immediacy of it all.
Yeah, there's some discrepancy about which floor, second or third.
Yeah.
But honestly, that detail almost feels insignificant compared to the bigger picture.
Right.
The emergency response was there, but the baby was pronounced dead at the hospital.
Oh, gosh.
So who is this young woman?
Yeah.
And what led her to this moment?
And that's the thing. We know very little about her. Like, she's an 18-year-old American student, part of a group,
Right.
maybe on a study trip, no name released. She was taken to the hospital for post-delivery care and is currently in police custody.
Okay.
But beyond that, it's just like a blank slate.
Right.
Her background, her state of mind, it's all a mystery right now.
And that's what makes this case so gripping, right? It's not just a news story, it's a human story. We're
Yeah.
left trying to understand the unthinkable.
Yeah, the Child Protection Brigade in Paris is leading the investigation, treating it as a homicide of a minor under 15.
Wow.
But one theory that they're considering is denial of pregnancy,
Oh, wow.
which adds a whole other layer to this.
Yeah, for those unfamiliar, denial of pregnancy is exactly what it sounds like.
Right?
A woman either not knowing she's pregnant or completely refusing to acknowledge it, even as it progresses.
And it's not as simple as choosing to ignore it. We're talking about deep psychological and emotional factors at play.
Oh,
Think about it. If someone's mind is protecting them from something too overwhelming to confront, that's a powerful force.
right.
And research suggests this condition isn't as rare as you might think. Studies have found that as many as 1 in 475 women may not realize they're pregnant until 20 weeks gestation.
Really?
And some even go into labor completely unaware.
So we're not talking about a conscious decision, but possibly a psychological defense mechanism.
Exactly. And that raises the question,
Yeah.
what could cause this level of disconnect? Some experts believe it could be linked to past trauma, extreme stress, or even hormonal imbalances that mask the typical signs of pregnancy.
Okay, so
So,
which brings us back to this young woman in Paris, 18 years old, thousands of miles from home, potentially facing a situation she never anticipated and didn't have the tools to cope with.
yeah, it's a lot to unpack, and we're going to explore these potential contributing factors more deeply, looking at what the news sources tell us about her age, her status as a student, and the dynamics of the group she was traveling with.
Yeah, and we'll do that after a quick break.
So let's try to put ourselves in her shoes for a minute.
Right.
Young woman in a foreign country facing a reality that maybe she's just not equipped to handle.
Right.
Because this whole idea of denial of pregnancy, like, what could trigger that?
It's like her mind is almost creating a protective barrier, but the physical reality is undeniable.
Right, exactly.
And what happens when that barrier breaks down?
Oh, especially in such a high-pressure situation.
Yeah.
So you've got the potential psychological factors, but then you add the layer of her age, her status as a student.
Right.
Think about it. The pressures young adults face today are immense.
Yeah.
This need to succeed, fear of judgment, constantly comparing themselves to others on social media.
Oh, absolutely.
And then add to that being away from home, maybe lacking a strong support system.
Yeah, you start to see how this could really spiral.
Right. And it's like all these factors combine to create this sense of being overwhelmed, maybe even trapped.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we know she was traveling with the group,
Right.
which brings in another layer, group dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
How much influence did the group have on her actions?
Right.
Or inactions, I should say.
Or inactions, yeah.
Was there an unspoken pressure to keep the pregnancy hidden?
Oh,
A
possibly.
fear of disrupting the trip, facing judgment from her friends?
Makes you wonder if anyone in that group even suspected what was happening.
Right.
Did she feel like she couldn't confide in anyone?
Exactly.
Like she had to deal with this alone?
And isolation like that can be incredibly dangerous.
Right.
It can really warp your perception.
Hmm.
Makes it difficult to think clearly, rationally.
And in a moment of panic, under immense stress, I mean, it's hard to say what choices someone might make.
And we've seen this kind of bystander effect in other situations, right?
Oh, yeah.
People assuming someone else will step in.
Right.
Or being hesitant to get involved.
Mm.
Could something similar have happened here?
Yeah.
If she was showing signs of distress, did anyone notice?
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone feel empowered to act?
Right.
These are all questions the investigators will be looking into. But it brings up a broader point, a societal point.
Yeah.
How can we foster environments where young people feel safe seeking help,
That's a good point.
even in the most difficult circumstances?
It's about creating a culture where vulnerability isn't seen as a weakness,
Right.
where reaching out for help is encouraged, not stigmatized.
Absolutely. Whether it's an unplanned pregnancy, mental health struggles, any other challenge.
Right.
Young people need to know they're not alone.
Yeah.
There are resources, people who care, options available. This case really highlights the need for those support systems to be in place, accessible, readily available.
Yeah, this has been really heavy, but also incredibly eye-opening.
Yeah.
I'm struck by how many factors could have converged in this tragedy.
It's true.
It's like each layer adds to the complexity, making it harder and harder to see a clear path forward.
And as we move forward, I think it's important to keep in mind that we're dealing with a lot of unknowns here.
Right.
But what we do know paints a stark picture
Yeah.
of the pressures young people face, the potential for isolation, and the tragic consequences that can unfold when someone feels they have nowhere to turn.
It's a reminder that behind the headlines, there's a human story, a young woman facing unimaginable circumstances.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, what can we do, individually and as a society, to prevent tragedies like this from happening again?
Well, and that's something we'll delve into a little bit deeper.
Right.
As we continue this deep dive.
Man, this case, it's been a difficult journey, hasn't it? Just peeling back the layers of a tragedy that's hard to even grasp, you know?
It really does stay with you, this sense of a life lost and a young woman's future was forever changed. And as we've talked about, there's so much we don't know. But I think what we have uncovered, it really highlights the need for compassion and a deeper understanding of what young people are going through these days, all these pressures.
We are left grappling with so many questions, but I think, this deep dive has really revealed something crucial. It's not just about one tragic incident. It's like a small window into a much larger issue.
Oh, absolutely.
Denial of pregnancy, the immense pressure on young adults today, the lack of support systems. I mean, these are things we need to be talking about, addressing head on.
Yeah, it's about moving beyond just simply acknowledging the problem.
Right.
And asking ourselves, okay, what concrete steps can we actually take to make things better, to create a more supportive environment? I mean, how do we even begin to destigmatize mental health challenges? How do we encourage open and honest conversations about tough topics, like unplanned pregnancies, especially with young people?
It feels like there's a shared responsibility here.
For sure.
And not just for each of us as individuals, but for communities, institutions, society as a whole, right? We have to foster this culture where asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Yeah, imagine if this young woman, if she had felt safe enough to reach out, to ask for help, if she knew there were options available, counseling, prenatal care, maybe even safe surrender options.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? The outcome might have been different.
That's a tough thought, but it really does highlight how important it is to make sure those resources are out there, that they're easy to access, and that people know about them.
Yeah.
We need to make sure, especially young people, that they know where to turn when they're facing a crisis without being afraid of being judged.
And, just as importantly, we need to create those spaces, where they feel comfortable talking, confiding in their peers, their family, teachers, whoever it is. We have to start having these conversations, breaking down the stigma around mental health, unplanned pregnancies.
So I guess as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the question we're left with is, what can each of us do in our own corner of the world to actually make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
What little act of kindness, what word of support, what conversation can we start to maybe contribute to a more compassionate, more understanding world?
That's a powerful question to end on, and I think the answer lies within each and every one of us. It's about trying to be more present, more empathetic, more willing to really listen, to understand, not to judge. It's about recognizing that even in, the darkest moments, the toughest situations, there's always hope, and there's always that chance for healing and growth. And sometimes that starts with just a simple gesture, reaching out, offering help, just lending an ear.
This deep dive has really been a stark reminder, I think, of the importance of empathy, of awareness, of action. Thanks for being with us on this journey.